Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar this morning. We're really excited about the opportunity to be able to lift up the work of the Initiative Foundations and these amazing women who are doing great work in rural Minnesota. My name is Teresa Kittredge, and I am the founder of 100 Rural Women. And we are all about creating connections, and we really like to figure out how can we best inspire leadership with women, with rural women. So we're just really happy to have you here. We are all about, we see a future leading positive change for rural women, leading positive change for our communities, our state, our nation, and the world. So we're all about building networks through mentorship, education, and engagement. And we are a nonprofit and nonpartisan organization. And our core mission is really to serve rural women. So I know we got a lot of people coming on this morning, but we're going to get it started and make good use of time. If you want to pop in the chat where you're joining us from this morning, that'd be fun. And we really want to have an active chat today. So please feel free to make comments, questions, add resource links, whatever you would like to share with the rest of the group. A little bit about Zoom. I think everybody knows the ins and outs of Zoom, but if you aren't speaking, if you can mute, that would be great. And when we get to the, after the presenters are done, we'll facilitate some Q&A, so please participate in that. And a little bit on our breakfast club. Our organization was doing our formal launch just as COVID was hitting. So webinars were one of the first things that we did, because we were like, oh my gosh, it's COVID. What are we gonna do as an organization? We have no resources, we can't go out and talk to people. And Erica, who I'm gonna mention shortly, is one of our original board members. And Erica and Rachel, another board member, and I got together, and it was like, oh, what can we do? And it was like, we could do webinars, and we could lift up amazing work that women are doing in rural. So that's how our breakfast club all came together. So I'm going to just do a quick round of intros before we get started. Let's see, we've got a couple amazing young women on the call today, and that's the whole other thing about 100 Rural Women. We are young, women driven, so we have been really fortunate to have amazing young women on our board, and students, between interns and grad students and fellows. So let's do a quick round of intros. Jasmine, do you just want to introduce yourself, correct?
Yeah, hi everybody. I am a graduate student, and I'm working with 100 Rural Women this summer, and I worked with them last summer as an intern, and I'm super excited to get started. I am going to the University of Minnesota Twin Cities, and I will be pursuing a master's degree in school psychology. And then I'll hand it over to Emma.
Thanks, Jasmine. I am Emma Higgins. I am a fellow with Lead for Minnesota, wrapping up my fellowship in August of this year. And I have been working with 100 Rural Women for just over a year now. And it's been an amazing journey. Excited to be here with you all this morning. I will pass it over to Erica.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Erica Bieland, and I am a board member with 100 Rural Women, and I'm happy to be here. Teresa, do you want me to go ahead with the intros, or do you have anything else you wanted to add?
No,
okay.
I see Caitlin just popped on. Caitlin, you want to introduce yourself quick?
Yeah, I'm Caitlin. I'm also working with 100 Rural Women. I worked with 100 Rural Women last summer as an intern, and then I came back this summer, and I'm super excited to be here.
Love it. And you'll see a theme here with recurring interns. So we're really lucky to have interns come back, and then after they graduate, we've been hiring them as contractors. So it's great. And then we have a brand new intern who just started Monday afternoon. Virginia, say hello quick.
Hi, everyone. My name is Virginia. I am going to be a senior at Winona State, studying double majoring in applied communications and English literature and language. So I just started Monday, as Teresa said.
Yeah, so a little bit of fire hose, have you jumping into the deep end of the pool like we do at 100 Rural Women. Well, anyway, I'm going to hand it over to Erica to take us forward, and everybody, thanks for joining, and we're just going to be letting people come in as they join. So thanks so much, Erica.
Yeah, hello. Thank you, Teresa, and so exciting to see all of you here this morning. Today we have three really amazing women that are part of the Initiator Fellowship that we'll have an intro to right after this. So I'm going to introduce them, and then we have some questions for them, and then please ask questions in the chat as they come up and you hear more about all of the great things they are doing. Well, I'm going to start with Nora Hertel, who is an investigative reporter and founder of a new digital news organization called The Optimist. The Optimist will feature solution-focused journalism on the environment, business, and social issues in Greater Minnesota as it launches this summer. That's so exciting. Her work has been published across the Midwest by USA Today, the Associated Press, the Star Tribune, and of course the St. Cloud Times, where she worked from 2017 to 2021. Welcome, Nora. We also have Noreen Thomas, who is an organic farmer in rural Moorhead, Minnesota. She lives on a 6th-generation farm she calls home. She has a bachelor's degree of science from NDSU in food and nutrition, microbiology, and chemistry. Noreen is always interested in the intersection of nutrient-dense food, agriculture, and the very people the land feeds. Noreen is the first woman and first organic farmer to receive the University of Minnesota SEAL Lifetime Achievement Award. The family has received Disney's National Award for Community Service and has been featured on the Food Network as well as research publication. She is an advocate for rural sourcing instead of outsourcing. Doubting Thomas Farms, her farm, is the social media name of her farm to follow along to or get info. And finally, our third guest today is Fardowsa Iman, who was born in Uganda and raised in St. Cloud from the age of 8. She is a third culture kid who can see why the traditional paths might not be working for first-generation Somali Americans. Iman is using her Initiators Fellowship to create a chemical dependency recovery clinic designed to serve the specific cultural needs of the region's Somali immigrant community. She has a degree in chemical dependency and community psychology from St. Cloud State University and is eager to learn how to build sustainable business through the mentoring she's receiving through the Initiators Fellowship. Wow, such cool, 3 different and really exciting initiatives. We're happy to have all 3 of you. Thank you for being here today. I'm going to pass it over quick to Chris Fastner, who is the leader of the Initiator Fellowship, to share a little bit more about why we have these 3 very, very cool women here with us today, and then we'll get into the questions.
Thanks, Erica. And good morning, everybody. Hi, Teresa. Hi, Erica. It's always great to see you too. Thanks for allowing me to join this session this morning. You know, I'm a huge supporter of the work of 100 Rural Women, and it's my honor to be here this morning, even just for a couple minutes. As Erica mentioned, I'm Chris Fastner. I'm the program manager for the Initiators Fellowship, program created by the Initiative Foundation in Little Falls, serving central Minnesota. But now, in partnership, the fellowship is now a partnership amongst 4 of the 6 Minnesota Initiative Foundations. Excuse me. The Southwest, Northwest, and West Central Initiative Foundations joined us in this venture, so that now we serve a 53 county, 6 native nation region. I'm only here to provide a little context about, and answer questions about the program. Of course, the main attraction is the 3 amazing women you're going to hear from in just a minute. But just a little background about the fellowship. The Initiators Fellowship, I like to say, is a 2-year suite of supports provided to 8 early stage social entrepreneurs. And that suite of supports is intended to help them develop their social enterprise venture as well as their local leadership. And it includes a $30,000 annual stipend to help give all the fellows the bandwidth to focus on developing their social enterprises. and leadership. It provides them with expert business leadership and social justice training, mentorship and coaching, business consulting, and just connection to the kind of vast array of Minnesota Initiative Foundation resources and network. I already mentioned that we are currently serving 53 counties, 6 native nations, basically kind of the western half of the state, if you drew a line right down the middle. Hopefully someday we will partner with the other 2 initiative foundations and serve all of greater Minnesota, but we're growing slowly and deliberately. If you're unfamiliar with the term social enterprise, it's a broad category of business that combines the nonprofit sector's focus on mission and the for-profit sector's focus on, profit. So social enterprises, they can be nonprofits, they can be for-profits, they can be a hybrid structure called a public benefit corporation, but they have the dual purpose of providing a profit for the owners of the venture or for the nonprofit, if it's a nonprofit, as well as a social purpose and kind of primarily to meet a social purpose. The fellowship was created, 6 or 7 years ago now. Late in it, and it's I kind of think of it like all of the programs of the Minnesota Initiative Foundations to help greater Minnesota communities prosper. It's different than a lot of our programs. It's an investment in individuals who we believe will help lead their communities in the areas of purpose-driven business, economic and community development, and inclusive community building. Fardowsa, Nora, and Noreen are 3/8 of our current cohort, and there are links provided. You can learn about the other 5. And as you'll see, they are amazing women. The last thing I will say, the application process for our fourth cohort, or next cohort, will open next spring. So the spring of 2023. It's a 2-year fellowship. So every other year we are recruiting and accepting applications. You can learn more about the program, the current and past fellows, by visiting our Initiators Fellowship website. So with that, I'll hand it back to you, Erica, and we'll hear from our amazing Initiators Fellows. Thanks.
Awesome, thank you. And what an exciting program to have in rural Minnesota. We're gonna get, like I said, we're gonna get started with some questions that we had for our 3 guests today. And then as you hear more, please put your questions in the chat and we will go through those as well as monitor those after we get started with these first questions. So why don't we go, if it's all right, I'll just maybe go in alphabetical order by first name. So Fardowsa would be first, Nora, and then Noreen. And the first question we have is tell the group a little bit about yourself, your social enterprise, and the impact you hope to have with it. Fardowsa?
My name is Fardowsa Iman, and my social enterprise is a culturally competent addiction and mental health treatment center. I wanted to become a counselor to begin with, an addiction counselor, because I ended up realizing when I was in college that a lot of my peers that grew up with me here were having a lot of addiction problems. And within my community, there was just no resources and there was no understanding of what addiction was. And it was understood in the sense of as a moral issue, just like in the beginning of addiction or even treatment processes in the beginning in America. It was, everybody thought moral issue, that's what it is. It's not that it's an actual brain disease that needs treatment and actual somebody to talk to. And a lot of our parents, what they were doing was sending the kids back home, hoping that a change in environment was going to help them get away from using the drugs and get back to being more productive in the way that they wanted their kids to be productive. And then what would happen most of the time is that most of the kids that grow up here will go back and have a culture shock on top of being traumatized. And it might change a little bit because the environment is different, in the sense of if you take somebody out of their environment, it's going to change for a little bit. But the core reason of why they started to use never really changed. And that was never really addressed. So most of the time they would be there for a couple of years and then come back, and then they'll pick it right back where they left off. And I just see it continuously happening. And I wanted to help my community feel more comfortable going to treatment and feeling like they can have somebody that looks like them. And if they see somebody that looks like them, that has the same culture and religion as them, it'll be easier for them to digest the information as well. So for me, that was the initial reasoning why I wanted to become a counselor. And once I went into my field, I realized there was a large gap between the Somali individuals that were coming into treatment and not having culturally competent counselors there to help them. And some of the times, the things like barrier, the cultural nuances, those different things that come up, the patient would have to sit there and educate their counselor on that while they're trying to get help. And I realized that it's hard while you're in active addiction, trying to explain to a counselor or a health professional why, or the things that are happening, or the nuances between our collective society versus the individual society. All of those come into play. And if you're not trained very well in how to help somebody maneuver that, you could, as a clinician, you can cause more damage than good to the patient. And I really just wanted to create a clinic that not just respected but I wanted to create a clinic that really used the culture and religion in a way that is protective, because we do have positive aspects of our religion, our culture, that could really help individuals adhere to their treatment and obtain and sustain recovery in the long term. And there's a lot of things that within our culture and our family systems that we could use really to help our individual that's needing help. And all those things that I realized I knew, it's just not everyone really knew. And I wanted to create a clinic for somebody to come in and not have to feel like they have to explain themselves to their counselor. And with a population, I don't know if all of you guys know this, but Minnesota has the largest Somali population outside of Somalia. And we have maybe 2 or maybe 3 treatment centers, and they're all in the metro area. So there's none in this area or any other areas in the Minnesota area. And that is a small amount of clinics for that large of a population to actually get help. So that is my social enterprise. Kind of forgot the second part while I was talking of the question.
No, that's great. It was just to share what you're doing and what you're hoping to get out of this program. So I think you answered it. I don't know if you want to add anything based on that, but
a little bit. The impact that I want to make is to not just be a place where somebody can get help, but also to help my community learn more about mental health and addiction and to remove the stigma. Truly, that's what it's about. The other aspect I learned while I was doing treatment and I was in other treatment centers is my community has such a lack of understanding of mental health and addiction that trying to get the individual to adhere to treatment would work better if the family also understood, and then they could support and also help that individual and hold them accountable at the same time when they fully understand that, oh, it's not a moral issue, it's actually brain disease. And this is something that they can actually get treatment and they could recover from and actually have a life that they want.
it's beautiful. Thank you. Nora, we'll go to you next.
Thank you. Thanks for having us here. I think probably all of us love talking about our topics because we're so passionate about them. I've been a reporter for 10 years, and in that time, I've seen the challenges in my industry, which include the digital transition, which has challenged funding for news, and also a really big drop in trust towards the news and kind of a sense of overwhelm that people feel with current events and the news that's shared with them, that I think has led people to withdraw from reading current events and reading the news, and also from civic life in general. So I have a lot of facets to my organization. Primarily at the heart of the Optimist, it's a news outlet. It's a digital news outlet that features solution-focused journalism. And solution-focused journalism, or solutions journalism, is rigorous and evidence-based reporting on responses to social problems. It's kind of a category or a style of reporting. And we'll be featuring solutions journalism, not only because it's helpful to hear about solutions that are underway to problems that we're facing in our communities, but also because it's a way to bring people back in who have been put off by all of the negative stories that are out there. And I do think it's important to have investigative and watchdog stories. I mean, we're in a challenging period of history right now with war and pandemic and climate change and political divides, and all of these things are really happening. But I don't think always how those things are covered is productive and helpful. And solutions journalism, I believe, is a really productive way to talk about problems. You're not offering like silver bullets or panaceas. You're saying, here's how one community took on a slice of this problem. So, for example, solutions reporting on climate change could involve coverage of agricultural solutions, cover crops, and understanding the limits and the benefits of those types of programs. And solutions reporting has to include not only a focus on solutions, but also evidence as to how that solution works. Or if you want to cover a solution that didn't work, you would include evidence on how it didn't work, limitations and other takeaways for organizations or communities that want to try that solution or learn from the attempt. So journalism is really at the heart. I've also started incorporating community art because I think it's really important for people to have a palate cleanser. You know, in the media that we have access to, there's so much that's heavy. So I've been working with illustrators to illustrate the stories that I'm reporting right now. I'm also working with them to illustrate some of the news kind of in a graphic storytelling way. And also just trying to find other ways to incorporate art into the website, which it will be theoptimist.mn, though that website is still under construction. If you want to sign up for the newsletter, which is going to be the first product that I'm putting out, it's join.theoptimist.mn, and you'll get added to the mailing list. I do hope eventually, in addition to providing more news in a state where we're losing reporters and we've lost newspapers, to also train more journalists, community journalists, student journalists, train them in journalism in general, and train them in solutions journalism, which is a particular way of practicing. I also hope to work with librarians and schools to beef up their media literacy programming, which is basically to help students discern who is behind their sources of information online. You know, if it's an influencer on Instagram, to understand that there's a profit motive behind some of those posts. I think it's important for people to be aware of that. And also just encourage young people to be producers of content as well.
Very cool. Thank you. We had a webinar once about media, and I love all these solutions you're putting forth. So that's very, very cool. Noreen, we'll end with you.
Hey, hi, I'm Noreen Thomas. Good morning to all of you. I'm an organic farmer in Northwest Minnesota, and I always look at things very deeply, especially environmental. And one of the things that really bothered me is food waste. And also not composting on big scale. So I took it upon to work with a company. We're doing a biodigester, and you're probably all like, what is that? But it's kind of this big kind of cube that burps and gurgles, and this company and I are working to take all their food waste. Well, it's all that stuff you left on your plate you didn't finish. I'm kind of on the Clean Plate Club, so you know, I just try to take less. And you put this in this biodigester, and it can create fertilizer, and it also creates electricity enough to run an office. So we're soon to launch that. It's gone a little bit slower than anticipated, but it's very, very interesting. The other aspect is composting. If you can, in your mind, think of 140 semis lined up. That's how much we're composting on the farm within a year. So we're taking animal waste and combining that with hay and straw, doing mixing, turning, adding moisture, and watching the CO2 level. So we're able to reclaim that and use it for fertilizer for the farms, which is really important right now, as fertilizer is imported a lot from India and China. And what bothers me as a grandmother and a mom is that a lot of that fertilizer coming in is tied to heavy metals. There's molecules attached to that. And we want to have a very pure source of compost and do some testing so that we're not putting that on our fields, in our gardens. And we're doing it now. We have to go turn the pile, big, long, if you could imagine half a block of line of compost that we're working on just today, in fact. And it's Doubting Thomas Farms, if you ever want to reach out, and we will have some events on farm as well. It's one way for me to share information, or if we have on-farm events with you or updates on the composting, we're happy to do that on social media. So I'm happy to be here. I'm very thankful.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Noreen.